Good morning, Sanai Pueblo. We're going to hold off just a few minutes to see if we can get some more people to join. Give it a few more moments. Okay. Good morning, Sanai. Again, this is the COVID response team coming with the weekly COVID update for the community. Today is February 17th, 2022. Time is 11:02 a.m. Like every week, everybody who joins live can put comments in the comment section if you have any questions or anything that you wanted to include in the conversation about COVID, or after the COVID report, anything else related to COVID or related to Health and Human Services. And if you're watching this later in the recording, you can actually put comments in the recording and we will answer the questions as we see them. So I'm going to get started here. So some of you have probably heard the blast from yesterday, or you've seen it on social media about the recent spike in cases. We had several individuals test positive within the last few days. So since the beginning of the week, Monday, we've had 9 new cases. And a lot of these cases are related to an exposure at the day school. Some of it is related to Super Bowl meeting or Super Bowl gatherings that happened over the weekend. So our active cases now are 13. That brings our total cases since the beginning of the pandemic to 210 cases, with 195 having recovered from the virus. I just wanted to take an opportunity to discuss how a lot of the people in the state of New Mexico and even within the Pueblo are looking at the local news, mainstream news, and they're recognizing that the numbers have decreased for COVID-19. And they'll talk about the Omicron variant being a lot milder than the previous variants. And I just wanted to make sure that we're paying attention to the fact that those news reports are going to be based on the general population. We're not looking at what's affecting the community. The spike that happened across the state, sometimes when we're in a rural area, the case numbers that spike tend to be delayed. And so whatever happened in the community within the past few weeks, in the state of the last few weeks with the spikes, and we had a slow downtick in case numbers. It's only logical that us being a rural community, we're actually going to get hit at a later time. So this spike that we have is probably related to something like that. It can't be definitive, but all we know is that the case numbers this week have gone up. There are several people that are going to be testing this week that are also part of exposure incidents. So those numbers may increase even further. So what we have to do as a community is to pay attention to the gatherings that we decide that we want to be part of. um, the wearing of the mask in the public places, because that's going to help prevent the spread. And also, um, if you're not vaccinated, it's a good idea to get vaccinated, because that is one of the things that is helping to reduce the spread in our communities. And I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the vaccines are available. We're probably going to be having a live vaccine event here on the Pueblo next week. I think it's going to be on Wednesday, the 23rd, between 10 and 2. I will send something out to confirm that as soon as I get that from the Department of Health. But they did offer that as an option for next week. So that is going to be something that we're going to be offering for vaccinations for next week. We are still offering testing here at the medical building here. If you have been exposed to someone who's tested positive, or if you have any symptoms that are COVID-like, we recommend that you call us at 505-252-5986. That's the COVID hotline, and arrange for testing. The only way to identify whether you're a carrier and maybe spreading the virus is to get tested. If you don't have any home test kits, you can come to us and we can test you here at the medical building. If you have home test kits and you're testing yourself and your family and you test positive, please contact us so we can actually provide you some assistance and services as we can. Because it is important that whenever we have these kinds of spikes, we kind of stop it from spreading as much as possible. So I don't have anything else for the COVID update. I'll open it up to the team if they have anything to add. Before Rebecca's going to be providing some information here after this, but anybody else on the team have anything to add on the COVID situation in the Pueblo? Other than it was a busy day yesterday, 23 tests that we had. We tested 23 people from the early morning until the afternoon. And of that 23 people, 10 tested positive, which is almost 50% positivity rate. One of the individuals that did test positive does not live in the Pueblo, so it doesn't get counted in our numbers. But it is something that we need to be concerned about. A 50% positivity rate on a test day is actually pretty high. So everybody that came in that got contact with the person who tested positive was at risk, and 10 of them tested positive. So it was a busy day. It's going to continue to be a busy week, and we encourage you all to come and get tested if you've had an exposure or if you have symptoms. I do want to say that a large majority of the people that have been testing positive lately have either have really mild symptoms, whether it's just a sore throat or a slight cough or runny nose, or they have zero symptoms. They have absolutely no symptoms at all. They came in there and they're extremely surprised because they had no symptoms, but they tested positive. And if you are asymptomatic, meaning you have no symptoms and you're around other people, you can still spread the virus to other people, whether they're vaccinated or not. So it's important. If you've been exposed to someone who tested positive, or if you have been exposed to someone who tested positive 5 days after your exposure, your last time you had contact, within 6 feet, within more than 15 minutes, we suggest you contact us to get tested right now. If it hasn't been 5 days, at the 5-day mark, contact us and we'll test you. If you have symptoms, you just come over and just call us and schedule. We can test you today. So anybody have any questions? There's a comment in the comment section. There is background music playing, Lillian. It's so that it's not so boring and quiet on the line when we're talking. It also helps us to have something in our ears so it doesn't seem like we're talking to ourselves. It's kind of odd sometimes to be talking, and hearing yourself talk in your headphones can be troubling for some people. So yes, there is. It's annoying. What? Lillian says it's annoying, so I think I'll turn it down. How about that? Okay. Is that better? I turn it down a little bit, so it's just a little bit of noise, a little bit of sound. Um, so that's our COVID update for today. Are there any questions? There's 8 people that are watching live. And if any of you have any comments or questions or concerns about what has happened over the last several days with the increase in cases, or if you have any other questions related to COVID, we're open to answering any questions. And remember, if you come over to the building and you're wanting to get tested, please, if there's a sign on the front of the building that says don't enter, but there's also directions that says push the button to let us know that you're out there. That way we can let you in. There's 2 ways that you can get access to the building. One is push the doorbell. We'll get that. Someone will come and greet you at the front door, or you can call. You can call the COVID line 505-252-5986. Someone will answer it, and they will basically meet you at the front. Because it's important, especially with what happened over the last few days with the individuals who came here. There were, like I said, 10 people that came here that were positive. You don't want to just walk into the building and be exposed to someone who may be positive. We want to make sure that we monitor access to the building to make sure people don't get exposed when they don't need to get exposed. So, with regard to the vaccines for people, the children 0 to 4, it is still on hold. They have. So, just a little bit of background on this. There's only been 400 children during the entire pandemic that have reportedly died from COVID. So, one of the things that they're trying to evaluate is, do they need to rush to get this vaccine approved right away when there's really no, and they have to weigh whether it's the urgency is there or not to get it approved. So they basically are taking a little bit more time to let the FDA review the data from the actual studies of those children between the ages of 6 months and 4 years old, to see if it is in fact something that they want to push through really quickly, especially as the numbers are starting to decline across the country. So they're just weighing their options to make sure that, one, it's necessary, and two, that they have all the data necessary to make the decision to make that approval. So it is still being evaluated. They're expecting to have some sort of an answer either towards the end of February or the first part of March. So, but it has been delayed. I mean, I think they were planning on having it approved last week. They wanted to have it approved last week, but they wanted to take some time to review the data that they have to make sure that they have it right, because we are talking about the youngest of the children. So that is the update on that. It's still pending. But you're 5 and up. Every single one of people, everybody that's 5 and up can get vaccinated. So, any other questions?
Troy?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make the community know that there is a vaccine clinic at the Santa Clarion Resort, and there was one on the 15th, but there's another one on February 24th, and it's from 3 to 7 p.m. And then you sign up with the at goodtimes.vaccinenewmexico.org. And I think I sent it to you, so you can post it on the
I did post it.
Live.
Yeah,
So
I posted on social media.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, we also got some brand new masks for everybody. We got masks for kids that are in different colors. They're in that at the KN95s. We also have some other high quality masks that we have here at the medical center. So if anybody's interested, give us a call and we can get them out to you. Um, some of the young people who got the mask this week, different colors, they were pretty excited about them because they're just not that plain white or plain black masks. I think we have pink and gray and light blue, dark blue, burgundy, all for the kids. And they're the kid fitting masks. So that's a good thing, especially for those kids who are still in school. Um, Lillian, you asked about we were just talking about the update on the vaccine for 0 to 4. That is still on hold. With that, I don't think they're expecting to hear anything until the end of this month or the beginning of March. The FDA has more questions, so they're evaluating that right now. Anyone have anything else? We don't want to stay on here too long. Rebecca's going to give us a quick presentation on, what was it again, Rebecca? I completely lost.
So,
Hold on. So just sorry, Rebecca. I just wanted to answer this question from the Tribal Council about why N95s are not available for children. So the actual N95s are designed for adults for basically occupational purposes. And so that's why they're designed that way. But the second alternative, the KN95s, are available for children. And we do have those here at the clinic. So they're similar, except that they haven't gone through the as rigorous of evaluation and testing as the actual N95s are. But we do have the ones that are basically the same without the extra testing and evaluation. So we do have those here at the clinic. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to ask that question, answer that question.
yeah. Okay. You're welcome. So today I wanted to talk very briefly about, there we go, about recovery from COVID-19 and the heart. Sorry about that. So specifically recovery when it impacts the heart and the lungs. So post-COVID-19 symptoms related to the heart and lungs, the most common ones we're seeing, doctors are seeing, are shortness of breath and dyspnea, which is difficult or labored breathing, dizziness, lightheadedness. That's related to ineffective oxygen exchange from the lungs to the blood cells. And hypertension. So we're seeing some folks becoming hypertensive. They haven't really determined if that's a permanent change in someone or if it's possible to recover from that on a more permanent scale. Blood clots throughout the body. They are evaluating folks who are recovering from COVID-19 to see if they're developing blood clots. They essentially, COVID-19 has other than the heart and the lungs, it has a huge impact on your blood chemistry. And so some of these patients, clots can be dangerous and painful. They can lead to heart attack, stroke, and pulmonary embolism, which is what happens when blood gets in the way of oxygen exchange in your lungs. And then chest pain and irregular heartbeats, so arrhythmias essentially, which some can lead to dysfunction of the cardiovascular system and cardiopulmonary system, makes it less efficient. So it's harder for your body to get the oxygen and blood, and by dint of that, nutrients that your body needs for energy. So, what are the treatments that that doctors are using? They are using different approaches because everyone's kind of different. They're seeing sort of a spectrum of folks that have all kinds of different symptoms of post-acute sequelae of COVID or long COVID. And so they're having to be somewhat flexible with their treatment plans when it comes to this condition specifically. You know, they have to evaluate patients based on their symptoms and how they're feeling, how their labs are coming back. So, you know, mostly what they're doing is they're monitoring patients, their vital signs, monitoring the intensity of their symptoms, how it's impacting their daily life. And they're using medications to treat the symptoms. There's not, in this situation, there's not going to be one specific medication to treat all of post-acute sequelae of COVID. So you basically need to do an, evaluate a patient's entire system and figure out what things are most important to treat. For example, they might use blood pressure medication if somebody has become hypertensive, blood thinners if they are at risk or have experienced clotting problems. They might give patients a supplemental oxygen prescription, so they would have to use oxygen on a regular basis. Drugs to treat arrhythmias to help get that heart rhythm under control so that the heart is most efficient. And mobility aids. Some folks are experiencing a lot of fatigue and weakness, and some of that is definitely connected to the heart and lungs, and their efficiency has been impacted by COVID-19. So some people are having to use walkers and wheelchairs, maybe canes, things like that to help them get around because they are very tired and experiencing challenges with oxygen to the blood and blood flow to the body. Lastly, it's not as common, but sometimes they're using infusions to bolster immune responses. So there's a medication called IVIG, which they're starting to find helps a little bit. None of these things are cure-alls. So basically, doctors are trying to do what they can to help improve a patient's situation and hopefully help them heal from this. So IVIG is an intravenous immunoglobulin, and it aids in restoring the immune system. It's not for everyone, so it's again on a patient by patient basis, depending on what their needs are. And with this recovery, how do you get to that point where maybe you've had COVID and you don't feel so good? You've noticed some changes in your body and your abilities on a day-to-day basis to do things that you need to do in life. You want, if you haven't already, you want to talk to your healer and or your physician and find out what they can do to help you deal with these symptoms and hopefully, improve your quality of life and with everything that's going on, hopefully you're able to eventually heal from this terrible illness. So you want to also, take things one step at a time. It can be overwhelming for some folks who are experiencing this. You want to have sort of a balanced health approach. So, eat well, sleep well, take time to rest. If you usually have like a really intense schedule in your life, you may want to just plan ahead for those activities, to make them a little bit easier and make them doable. Sometimes I think generally what they're seeing in patients is that some folks are taking as long as 6 months to a year to sort of get back to close to what they were used to. So, and it's also important to perform self-care. COVID-19 is both a physical and, um, emotional and cognitive. It's become a full body, um, a disease that impacts everything that we have. So it's really important to remind yourself to be kind to yourself if you're experiencing these symptoms and you're going through dealing with the difficulties that this virus has left many people. So be kind to one another and be kind to yourself, and remember that healing takes time. So I'm hoping that this brief presentation was a little helpful to those who are experiencing this post-acute sequelae of COVID. Um, and that's what I have for today. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask them. Or you can also contact us, and someone can get a hold of me, and I can help answer questions if you're viewing us after our live.
Thanks, Rebecca. So if you have any questions or concerns, or need to have some follow-up and kind of get to understand this whole concept of long COVID a little bit better, Rebecca is available to discuss that further. That's the things that she has brought to the table, is that conversation of understanding these long-term effects of how COVID is affecting members of the community. I know that there was a recent research article that came out last week that was talking about how people can technically be at risk of having cardiac issues up to a year after they had COVID, even if they had mild symptoms. So people are looking at this as, well, I wasn't really sick, so there shouldn't be any problem. There shouldn't be any risks there for some of these long-term issues. But the studies aren't showing that. They're showing that you are at risk of potentially having some sort of cardiac issue or cardiovascular issue, including blood clots and heart failure, and having a heart attack. Because up to a year after having COVID, they're finding that your heart has been significantly impacted by this virus and how it's affecting your system, especially your cardiovascular system. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that, because that's not something to just say, well, I'll just get COVID and get it over with, because you might be one of those individuals who have that long-term effect, or have that effect on your heart or your arteries, or some other part of your cardiovascular system. So it's important to recognize that this is, even though you don't have symptoms, or even though you don't have, some of the acute negative effects of COVID, those things are happening right now. Just think about what COVID can do to your system and what might happen to you within the next 12 months, because that's what they're saying. 12 months after COVID, you're still at risk of having those some of those challenges. So, what Rebecca was talking about, reaching out to your providers, is important, especially if you haven't had a physical during the pandemic, which a lot of us haven't been at the doctor because we were afraid to go, or you just couldn't get in. So the last 2 years you haven't been to your physician, so you don't know what your blood work says. You don't know what your current condition is. Nobody's listened to your heart to see what's going on there, and then say you had COVID. It might be wise to reach out to your primary care physician and say, hey, can I come in and have a physical and to make sure that everything is okay? Because some people's systems have reacted to this virus differently than others. So it's important to get that follow-up.
Yes, Lillian, we can definitely get that available to you and everyone else. And also, to carry on what Troy was saying, they're even finding folks who did indeed have mild cases of COVID or even asymptomatic, discovering that they actually, after they were over their infection, they did come down with post-acute sequelae of COVID or long COVID symptoms. And those really, they don't just go away quickly, like the symptoms of COVID itself, or if you have the flu or something like that. They're very long term, and they can impact daily living. So it's important to be aware of any changes in your health, in your body. Is it, even if you're just walking, from one room to another, or you're feeling a little tired, you get up dizzy, things like that. You want to get those things checked out.
And there's some folks in the community that have had COVID that are going to be coming on and talking about these things, their experiences with COVID, because I think that those of us who have not, at least we don't think we've had COVID, that don't know what the experience is like when you have COVID. Listening to someone who has recovered, who has had the monoclonal antibody treatments, or they've had some other treatment options that are available to folks who have COVID, they can actually talk to us about what we've experienced. So we actually plan on having some guests, so to speak, come in and talk about those things, especially some of the psychological, emotional, and mental health challenges that have happened with them when they had COVID, and then after they had COVID, wondering what's next, because it is affecting us. They're saying that's the new epidemic, is that the new pandemic is the psychological effects of what COVID has done to our community, from the actual virus itself, to the fear of getting the virus, to some of the long COVID symptoms are neurological. People are developing depression and anxiety and things like that. So there are members of the community that have experienced these things, and understanding the reality of what we're dealing with COVID is important. So expect that to be coming sometime soon in the near future, and hopefully it'll help bring some light to the experiences that some of our folks are having. So I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything before we sign off? I know, LaDawn, you guys have your event next on the 25th, right?
So next week we will be having our final event for the month of February, and so we'll continue with the health screening at the senior center. So come and join us.
And keep an ear out, an eye out, whether it's on social media or through a blast that might be coming out about the vaccine clinic that is supposed to be coming sometime soon here in Pueblo. So I'll probably have more information on that sometime later today, and we'll be able to advertise that vaccine clinic. And it's going to be all age groups. So ages 5 and up are going to be eligible for vaccination. We don't know yet exactly where it's going to be. Will it be here through our new drive-through tent that we have, or will it be at the gym? So just keep an eye out, and we'll get that information out to you. We appreciate everybody who tuned in and asked questions. Lillian will get that email out probably right at the end of this. The presentation. Make sure that Rebecca's and LaDawn's emails are out there so that you all have access to it. So if you have any questions. So if nobody else has any questions, I'd like to thank you for joining in to our February 17th COVID update. and we'll see you next week.